Okay, we'll call this Tower 3 and we'll see what I've added here. So I'll go ahead and just run it. So we're still over here with the tower in the middle, one active gun currently. Up the upper right, you can see a score and a health bar. And you can see that I've added an animation to kill an enemy and sound. So to cut to the chase, I'm going to go get and hit. I put a 5 HP in for my guy. So the one, you can see that he changes colors. So you can tell when you've been hit. And the health bar goes down. And it looks like that's going to be it. He blows up and it goes to a game over screen. So that's the new stuff that we've got put in since last time. So we'll go in and we'll show you some of it. So here's one thing. If I go to sprite enemy and I hit edit sprite, you'll see that not only did I start off with an original static sprite image, which was just a black box, but I did an add from strip. If you go file and you go down to add from strip, and I put in an explosion sprite that I found out on the sprite sheets for an explosion sprite sheet. So I added from strip to this original enemy look. So that was one thing. I went ahead and just copied that sprite and named it Sprite Big Bang, and I just put that in there also, and I do a sprite change later on. So that's two new sprites things I've done. Sound explosion, pretty self-explanatory. Background game over, pretty self-explanatory. Font score, pretty self-explanatory. So a room end, honestly, pretty self-explanatory. So we'll see what else I did here. First of all, I'm going to go to the object tower, and we're going to look and see what the adds are in object tower. So in the create function, I've got these extra booleans hanging out here. I created points, which of course is going to be score, if I can spell it correctly. I've created, I'm going to move this because I'm not doing it right now. I've created these two things, which are this. I'm just going to call this boolean control, and I'll explain that in a minute. Control. And this down here obviously is just setting his HP, so I'm not going to sweat talking about that. We know what HP is. I got a couple alarms here, and I'll explain those here in a moment. So let's go to the step function. So in the step function, we had rotating tower, we had projectiles, and then down here is the whole new part down here. Tower is vulnerable. So if place meeting object enemy and not hit, set the image index to 1. So what this does is, and in my sprite, I added a red image. And I better put that in green things here. And I don't know if I showed you that or not, so I'll make sure that you can see that. But in my tower, I added a second image and I colored it red. So that way when he does get hit, you can tell he's been hit. It takes the HP away from 1. It sets hit to true. Now this is the Boolean control I was talking about. So if I didn't have this not hit statement in there at the very end, if it's not there, then that alarm just keeps resetting itself. If place meeting object enemy, alarm sets, alarm sets, alarm sets. Alarm keeps setting itself, and it doesn't ever go off, and that's a problem. So you have to use an additional Boolean in there. And alarm 0 equals 15, that's just 1/2 second, and all it does is in that 1/2 second is it goes ahead and destroys after that point in time. So this is object tower. Alarm 0, oh, this is if it gets hit by an object enemy. It sets its HP down. It doesn't destroy, not until it gets HP to 0. All it does is it turns it back. So alarm 0, all this does is it turns its image index back to 0, and it turns hit back to false. So let's talk about that image index here. So anytime you edit sprite, this first one's called image 0, the second one's called image 1, the third one I've got that I haven't used yet, I'm going to use it for a power-up later, it's called image 2. So I'm basically, when he gets hit by an enemy, I'm telling him to turn image index into 1, and then when the alarm goes off 1/2 second later, I just say turn back. So that's how that's controlled. If I go back in the tower for a moment, and I look back at the step function, now this one is the other one where it says, okay, if HP and not dead, turn the sprite over to Big Bang. It does some other things, and this alarm and this image speed just kind of make sure the explosion gets a chance to play out. And then once the alarm goes off, and that alarm 1 just takes him to the game over room. Okay. And let's take a look at object spawner. That's probably, well, object enemy was one of the other things I did. So again, let's look at steps function here. If we look at step function in object enemy, this whole stuff, destroys when hit, is new. So if meeting projectile and not hit, this is just your Boolean control again. We talked about that, and here's this other piece of that Boolean control. It's just got to go in there. Set alarm 0 to 45, set image speed to 1.5. So this will play the explosion. You'll add the points. You'll set his speed to nothing because I don't want the explosion to chase after you. And then we'll play the sound hit. And then I put another little bit down here, if place meeting tower and not hit. I just again set a ½ second, and that just destroys the image again because I didn't want him sitting down there either. So this enemy destroys when he hits tower. And this, of course, destroys when and he hits or is hit by projectile. So these are the different parts in code right here. Obviously, I'm not adding any points or anything else. Like when it hits the tower, I don't even play the animation. I just let that tower's animation, that image index, flip over to red, and then a ½ second later I just say destroy him, so he doesn't keep completing the Boolean. And that's object enemy. And as you can see, alarm 0 just has him destroy and turns hit back to false, and alarm 1 turns hit back to false and destroys again. So same basic concept, controlling the Booleans. And then object spawner, we added a few more things in object spawner. Create, I just said only set that alarm if the room is not equal to room end. An exclamation point means not equal, so I don't set the alarm unless it's in the playing room. Alarm 0, same thing that it's done before, that just keeps spawning stuff. And the draw events. So I added a draw set score in here, and I just told it to draw score. And then remember, this quotations means print what's ever in there. And if I put string, it's actually going to be the way you do a variable. And health bar, and you can look this up in F1, and it looks like this. And I'm going to go ahead and just tell you to use the F1 help screen, but it'll tell you all the stuff to fill in on health bar. And again, I only draw the health bar if room is not room end. So if the room is the playing room. All right, hopefully that's enough. I will put some of this on the board again tomorrow, and hopefully you can put some of this extra stuff in there, and I'll work on a power up later.